Hello, friends. Welcome to the Coco Podcast. My name is R.W. Moody. I'm the next gen pastor here at Coco Ministries, and you're watching and listening to the Coco Podcast. Hey, listen, the purpose of this podcast is to move leaders in Ohio to be challenged through bite-sized conversations about ministry, leadership, and growth. And so we would invite you in these moments just to take a listen or to watch this video well, to step into your God call and to be challenged as we grow here together in the state of Ohio. Hey, listen, friends, today on the podcast, we have a very special guest. His name is Jim Feirtag. Jim is the lead pastor at NorthPark Church of God in Meridian, Mississippi. Jim and I go way back. We've known each other for 30 plus years, served together in Texas for over 11 years. And so he just happened to write a book on holiness called Holy His. And so we're going to take a listen. Just have some conversation with Jim about this book. So Jim, welcome so much to the podcast today. Jim, it is so good to be with you here on the Coco Podcast.
Yeah.
You and I go back a long time.
Long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
We don't need to go into too many dates. We'll just say a long time ago, like you just said. So just for the sake of people here in Ohio, since you're in Mississippi, tell us a little about yourself, your call to ministry, and your current ministry role.
Yeah. I grew up in Illinois, so I'm a Midwest kid, and was raised in the Church of God in Galesburg, Illinois, and went to Anderson after graduating high school. Was there 4 years for college, met my wife there, and stuck around for 4 years more after that for seminary. And when I graduated, it was from seminary, it was 2003. I was 26 years old, and I went for the first time as a lead pastor. I've been an associate youth guy in Indiana at two different places when I was in college, part-time and full-time in seminary. But I was 26 and went as a lead pastor in Parkgate Community Church in Pasadena, Texas, southeast Houston, big suburb down there, and was there for 18 years. Then never thought we'd leave, but that's another story for another time. But God saw other ways, and been here in Meridian, Mississippi now it'll be 4 years in August.
Okay.
But I felt a call to ministry when I started feeling it when I was a junior in high school, wrestled for a long time, and about a year and a half or so, and then really kind of surrendered to that in my freshman year there at Anderson.
Yeah. We had 11 great years together at Parkgate.
Yeah, absolutely. That was, you remember when we were in college, we all sort of daydreamed about that, but never, I don't think, thought it would happen. And yet here we are.
Yeah, I'll never forget the day you called me up and said, "Hey, remember that dream we used to talk about in college?"
Yeah.
It was like, yeah. What would you think about making it a reality? And, I'm so glad that I took your call. And if I remember correctly, you called me when I was on a job interview.
You were on an interview.
Church.
In the middle of an interview, I happened to call. Yeah, that's right. I wrecked that. Sorry.
I'm not sorry, dude. That was not going to happen for me. But obviously our time together was very well spent, and you hold
That's
a
right.
great place in my family's hearts, and glad that God gave us.
We were at each other's weddings.
We were a week apart.
Yeah. You stole our wedding date, so I made you wait 6 days to go on a honeymoon.
Can you stop getting be all hurt about that? Come on. That was 26 years ago, man.
That's right. I just want everybody to know that comebacksies happen.
Great.
That's right.
My reputation as a podcast host has now been diminished.
That's right. Yeah. There you go.
So you recently, by the time that this podcast will air, we'll have released a book called Holy His.
Yeah.
And I gotta tell you, man, I worked my way through it. Very well done. I really enjoyed reading through it. I need to go back and work through it. Actually, I just read through it the first time, but
Sure.
All about this idea of holiness. So as you have discovered what holiness is about in terms of pastoral work and then preparing for that book, how would you define it for us to help us understand what holiness is?
Yeah, that's a great question, because if you asked 100 people, you'd probably get 110 answers.
Yeah.
I would say, really simply, Holiness is about Jesus taking full ownership of your life, right? And as he does that, he's purifying you from the sin that still remains, and he's setting you apart for his service. And it's really that simple. And in one sense, holiness is a gift that happens when you become a follower of Jesus. It's a thing that happens by grace, right? In the same way that he took your sin away, um, he implanted his holiness and righteousness in you, and that's by grace. It's not by something you did. He made you holy then. But for practical purposes, it's also a fight, right? It's a fight to get rid of the old stuff that used to be there and to put on the new stuff that he wants. And then there's another analogy. I didn't come up with it, but I stole it, and it's in the book there. It's about pregnancy, right? So if a woman,
Mm.
we don't say, well, pregnancy lasts like 10 months in total, a full 9 months, right up to the 10th. And we don't say, you know, I think she's 900 or, 246 hundreds pregnant or whatever. She's either pregnant or she's not,
Yeah.
right? But at the same time, we practically know that that woman is a little more pregnant today than she was yesterday,
Yeah.
and she'll be a little more pregnant tomorrow than she is today, up until the time where the baby is born. And so, in this, that's kind of how I think it works practically in our lives.
I remember reading that analogy as I was reading through your book, and it completely makes sense because the deeper we know Jesus, the more we become part of who he is in our
Yeah,
life, the more that we strive to be like him. So it's either in or out kind of thing.
yeah,
So how would you describe how holiness is played out in the life of a follower of Jesus?
yeah. Well, I mean, I think in a nutshell, it's something that is working in you. We're assuming that you're pursuing a life in Him, right? And you're not just sort of sitting back on a, lounge chair, thinking things are going to happen by osmosis, because that doesn't work. I mean, you're
Yeah.
pursuing Jesus, and when that happens, I mean, he increasingly becomes the thing you're hungry for. Your, if you will, the taste buds of your soul don't want the old stuff anymore. They want Him
Yeah.
more and more. And because of that, you want to kill the sin in your life before it kills you. You want to, it's about repentance. It's about changing it. Gil Stafford, my friend, one of the theologians of the Church of God, he's passed on now for many years, but he called this yes position,
Yes.
where you're saying yes to Jesus and not no to him. And so you want to get in that more and more. And it makes you want to change your relationships. How many of us, I mean, all of us have had conflict in our life, right? Maybe it's family, guy at work, neighbor, whatever, friends. But that's just the way life goes. But as Christians, we want those things to be repaired. And so if there's a relationship that's not as it should be, we want to do everything in our power to make it right. And it makes me want to I mean, holiness, if it's real, doesn't stay with me. I want to share it with others. It gives me a resilience in hard times. We're all going to suffer. Nobody is suffer proof, right?
Yeah.
But I think the final thing I would say is it makes you care about the world around you in uniquely different way. I mean, you care about somebody being bullied in ways you didn't before. You care about somebody being mistreated, whether it be on a micro level, this guy, or you care it in a macro level. You know that the way schools are in this community, we got to do something with that. That's a justice issue. I mean, that's a part of things that I think more and more take on. And maybe you care more about something in the school system. It's not that I don't care, but maybe my passion is, I don't know, kids in the foster system. In other words, but you care about things that are bigger than you.
Right.
And you jump into that.
Which then gives you the opportunity as a disciple to be able to share Christ with somebody else.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. 100%. And that's how you're seeing it. It's not like there's nothing wrong with, but when you and I were younger, remember there was this thing called Evangelism Explosion that
Yep.
taught you how to share your faith in 15 minutes. It's an elevator speech, right? And I'm going to present the gospel and make you, and I guess that has its place, but the best way to share gospel is having shown somebody the life, that's First Peter 3:15, give them a reason for the hope that you have, right? And they're going to ask about it. And, that becomes a regular thing, I think.
Right. In the years that I served as your associate, and then also in the years that you've been at Meridian, where I've kind of peeked in on your sermons
Yeah.
about the yes position. I mean, you talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
It was part of our culture and our DNA at Parkgate. I know
Yeah.
because it's part of who you are,
Yeah.
in terms of that whole discipleship, that whole surrender. So, why is it so important for us to pursue holiness?
Well, I would say, okay, you grew up, I grew up, we know that Jesus died on the cross
Yep.
to save us from sin. Absolutely. The gospel is he did that work. We have an opportunity to be forgiven, transformed, have eternal life for him in heaven, period. Right? So that's what he did. It's not what we do. That's what we've been saved from. But what have you been saved for?
Yeah.
You've been saved for something, and that's being holy. It's being set apart. It's for His service, right? It's that the world might see that, and the world needs to see it. And it's not just the oh well, I got the heaven thing done.
Right.
That's all that matters, and I'm just going to sort of soak up time.
Got my fire
For that.
insurance.
Yeah. I'm going to soak up time, however that long it is. No, you've been saved for something, and it's a good thing. It's a gift. It ought to inspire and be the thing that you want to pursue in your life. It ought to inspire really every decision you make after all.
Yeah. So we are a holiness movement.
Right.
We believe in pursuing that holiness. There have been a number of books authored by other pastors in our movement on the whole idea of holiness.
Yeah.
So what compelled you to write this devotional book on the whole subject of holiness?
Well, I appreciate you saying that. Quite frankly, I'm not aware. I say I'm not aware because I guess it's possible. I'm not aware of anything written on this subject in like 50, 60 years for
Gotcha.
a layperson. I mean, Stafford wrote stuff, of
Right.
course, that was often at Callan, others. That was for people like you and me studying in ministry and seminaries. I mean, yeah, it's accessible to a point, but it wasn't designed for the average person in the seats that I'm aware of. There's other things I'm just not, aware of. I'm not saying that we haven't had books that, there may be a chapter here or there, but I'm talking about a concentrated
Right.
sort of approach. And so that's one thing. And as a pastor, I mean, we talk in the Church of God about that, and yet there's not a regular, I think, approach or dialogue about what it could be and should be, and certainly not, if you will, updated for today. And there are folks that, I mean, they're in my seats every week,
Yeah.
who are new to Christ, or perhaps they've been in the church for a long, long time, but they've never gotten past, if you will, what they're saved for.
Yeah.
And I mean, I want to give them a vision for something newer, bigger, brighter. And here's another piece too. I mean, again, flashback to the 90s, when I was in high school, you were in high school and youth group. Just as one example, when we talked about dating, for example, at least in my experience, it was like, well, don't don't cross sexual boundaries because somebody could get pregnant, somebody could get a disease. It's bad. That was kind of the mentality. And I mean, it's true that those are negative things, but it was always taught from the negative. It was never taught, for example, of God has created you to have an intimacy with one other person in your life that is a reflection of a gift, that of a relationship that you're supposed to have with him. So that's a gift. And man, when I will talk about that in premarital counseling with people, many of them who unfortunately have had partners and maybe even have lived with or are living with the person that they're engaged to, right? and I start talking to them about intimacy, their eyes explode.
Yeah.
They're like, I want that. And so they've had, if you will, all the physical stuff,
Right.
and they know that. They don't know this. And I say that all to say, I think our approach to holiness sometimes has been a list of do's and don'ts, but never talking about, this is what you've been saved for. This is how he's created you. This is how he's empowered you. This is why he's filled you with his Holy Spirit. This is what he's directing and leading you to. And I hope, that's why I talk in the introduction. It's not a fingernail inspection.
Right.
It's not about a list of do's and don'ts. There's a funny story that I heard. It was an interview Jim Lyon gave years ago, and he talked about Charles Orr, who was one of our writers. In this, I think he wrote this in 1901, long time ago, long time ago. And in his book, he said, "Holiness people don't eat mustard, because mustard is usually served on hot dogs. Hot dogs are usually eaten at picnics, and picnics are places where there's a lot of rowdiness and rabble-rousing, and holiness people don't do rowdy and rabble-rouse. So don't eat mustard." That's insane.
That is a crazy step to step to step. But yes.
That's insane. Or I remember there was a Nazarene guy that we had speak at our annual meeting in Texas, and he had that joke. We were against adultery because we thought it might lead to dancing. And I mean, again, that's making fun of ourselves. But the mustard thing, those rules, they're insane.
Yeah.
That if I never had yellow mustard in my life, that ain't gonna make me holy,
Right.
and that's not gonna make me more like Jesus. I could these external things we get lost on. He really cares about what's going on inside, and I hope to give people a vision of what that could be.
Well, certainly as your book, as I've read through it, what I really appreciate about it, Jim, was all of the stories that you threw into that to help bring home the point. Which you've always done a great job at, like using stories to bring home the point. Again, I'm spending years with you. I've learned a
Sure,
great
thank you.
deal from you regarding that. And so I think that using those stories to help us understand the concept of holiness and how to practice it and how to strive for it certainly is a beneficial thing. So let me ask you this: as the author, certainly as you're working on this piece, how did authoring this book like refine your own pursuit of holiness? And how has that changed your life in ministry?
Yeah, yeah. I laugh because this got written over a long period of time. I mean, really, most of the writing and stuff was done in 2018, early 2020, and then COVID kind of hit the pause on it. And life was pretty hectic at that time. And then we moved, and we were in editing for a long time. And then I thought, well, would anybody would I have to self-publish this? Would it go anywhere? I should have sent um, the stuff to Warner Press a long time before, because they loved the project and jumped right on it, but I just assumed that they wouldn't anyway. Long story short, to answer your question, um, I remember back, I think most of the writing had been complete. And we talked about everything. There's something that you're putting to death, and there's something that you're taking on all the time. I remember it must have been a high stress time. And Julia said to me, you know, you're not being very kind lately.
Hmm.
I'm like, I'll show you I'm not going to be kind. That was not, I didn't want to hear that. Right?
You're living in your angst, Jim.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll show you not kind. But she was right. And I don't remember, I don't remember what the reason was. It was just a pressure cooker week or two or something. And I'm sure I was short. I'm sure, probably had a bit of grumpiness in me or whatever. But that's just another example of, at least at that moment, there was something I needed to kill. I needed to get rid of, and then something I needed to, in that case, gentleness or kindness, I needed to take on.
Yeah.
So I would say, well, and gosh, um, when I wrote the piece on suffering, it wasn't long after my mom had died.
Yep.
It wasn't long after uh, we'd lost Mary, a lady in our church there that was in our group, and a tragedy. But since then, I've lost my dad, and some other friends and things along the way. I mean, so there's been other physical challenges or stuff that we've had. So I've had to, say, yeah, there's uh,
Yeah.
suffering is not just a hypothetical; it's real. And on and on. I think if you're going to be honest, or I mean, if you're a pastor, just talk about the justice stuff, or if it's really holy, it doesn't stay with you. I mean, there's something you care about in the world. We've been in a challenging time in the political environment that we're in, right?
Yep.
I mean, as Christians, if we're going to be faithful to what the Scripture says, there are days we're not going to be good Republicans, and there's days where we can't be good Democrats.
Yeah.
Whatever your persuasion is, so that challenges you, right?
Yeah.
So I think as this has been going, and that's just three things that come to my mind right away. That Yeah, I mean, if you're serious about writing the subject, then I hope when you look in the mirror, you're like, oh, or oh, that's some place I still need to grow, or
Yeah.
yeah, no, that really means that, or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah. It's evident in the book, Jim, that like those things that you were thinking about and processing, they come through. And obviously, like I think as the reader, engage that and use that as a reflection of what's going on in our lives, also, it helps us to know that there are spaces in our lives where we can become, we need to have more work done, if that makes sense. Where we
yeah,
can be refined, whether it's through suffering or whatever, that our holiness can look different on the other side of that particular incident.
yeah, yeah. I, Listen, whatever experience that you're going through, whether it's a time of blessing or a time of trial or whatever, I'm just convinced that it can be lived for God's glory. And as you do that, if you're living it out for God's glory, that's refining you and making you more like Jesus. You remember, He's setting you apart.
Yeah.
He's taking full ownership. So that's, making His holiness more and more visible in your life.
Yeah. Holy His 7-week devotional on holiness.
Yeah.
It's the market on June 24th, correct?
Yes, that's right. That's coming Tuesday. So like
Yeah.
5 days from now.
So what is the best way that somebody could get a copy of that?
Yeah. When this was written, Dub, I mean, I originally had thought that this would be a great tool for churches to use in a 7-week campaign, right? Where the pastor could preach on each one of the subjects, and then small groups could, I had some questions at the end, but the way this is written, Warner Press made me totally rework it so that it's designed each chapter, each 7 chapters. So it's 5 days. So you're going to read a little chunk. There's some questions. And so it's even, I think, more conducive for a small group or a Sunday school class to use. And so if pastors are open to that, I'm even putting together sermon samples that they could reach out to me and get for that. But they can get it from Warner Press directly, obviously, and it'll be available there. It's available at Christian book distributors already. And although I checked and it's not there yet, it will be on Amazon. So they can get it there, and there will be a Kindle version too. So if somebody's an electronic person like I am, that will be there. And if you're in the Meridian area, it'll be Crooked Letter, so at a bookstore here locally. But that'll be a smaller group, I think.
Jim,
So
if
really,
somebody,
those 3 sources. Yeah.
okay, if there was a pastor that wanted to kind of get some information from you on like the ideas for sermons, what would be the best way to contact you?
Yeah. Let me just give you my email first, and then I'm in Atlas. Obviously, they can find me there, all my contact information. But email is simple. It's jim@northpark.church.
Okay.
Jim@northpark.church, and I will answer and get back with you. And I really would encourage. I think that would be a great thing for a church to do. We did it in Pasadena. That was back before the book existed, but all the meat of it was there, but it wasn't written in the current form. We're going to do it here in NorthPark in the fall, and I know some other churches have said that they're interested in that too. I think it'd be a great tool for that.
Jim, thanks for sharing with us a little bit about holiness and giving us a little bit better perspective.
Thank you.
You are greatly appreciated. Friends, as Jim has said, there's multiple ways you can get a hold of Holy His. I've read it. It's a great book. You go, like I said, need to go back and do it as a devotional kind of thing, but certainly can help you understand a little bit more of this pursuit of holiness as we follow Jesus. Jim, thanks again for joining us on the Kogo Podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks, Ohio.
Oh, you're very welcome. You'll be hearing this episode or watching this episode, whichever you please, and watch for the next one to drop. We'll see you soon.